After Microsoft released the Windows ME, and we all know how that didn't turn out well. Yeah, let's not talk about the Windows ME, but instead talk about the Windows XP's development. So, the Windows XP development started back in the 1999 as a Neptune project, but later on, Windows Neptune and Windows Odyssey got merged together to create a Windows Whistler, or also known as Windows XP. So, in today's video, we're gonna be taking a look at the Windows Whistler's beta builds. So, let's do this. The first Microsoft Neptune build that we're gonna be taking a look at is the build 5111, and this is the only Microsoft Neptune build that is real. And there was a one fake Microsoft Neptune build, and it also required me to do a clean install because you can't upgrade to Windows 2000 to Neptune because when I tried to do an semi upgrade, it a hard drive, and yeah, it was up to do clean install. However, what's new with the Microsoft Neptune, you may be asking? Well, it introduced so many features on the Microsoft Neptune, like new OBE and new Activity Center, and also new auto update and new start page, and yeah, etc. etc. And it also introduced a new Windows login screen and also new Windows identities, which is just a Windows user account control. And this is how the Windows identities looks like, and it's just a Windows user account control type of thing, except it's more simple. Hey, wanna know something stupid? Well, too bad, cause Microsoft Neptune can't shut down your computer for some reason, but probably because of something missing in the registry key or something. But who knows why? The next build that we're gonna be taking a look at is the Windows Whistler build 2202, and for some reason you can't boot from it. And one of the main reasons why is because of a CD-ROM.c underscore being corrupted or doesn't exist for some reason. So you have to install Windows 2000 by yourself. And also, I can't explain much in here, so here's the description. How to install a Windows Whistler build 2202. And no, you can't upgrade to Windows Whistler build 2202 because, again, CD-ROM.c underscore being corrupted. What's new with the Windows Whistler build 2202, you may be asking? Well, it introduced new build tags and the comments and bug fixes. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the Microsoft Neptune also introduced the comments lane. But anyways, moving on to the next build of Windows Whistler build 2250, which introduces the new auto one and the new login screen and the new second phase of a setup and jumping support for the 486 processor. and also new OBE and the new watercolor theme, and etc. And this is how the new Windows Whistler second phase of setup looks like, by the way. Looks too familiar, eh? The next build, Windows Whistler build that I was gonna take a look at is the build 2267. And yes, it is an actual build number. And unfortunately, I couldn't upgrade to it, but manually because of the something about the ACPI. So it was up to skipping 2 Windows Whistler builds. So yeah. The build of a Windows Whistler that you guys looking at is the build 2416, which introduced new Windows setup, new OBE, new user interface, new control panel, and etc. Oh, and the Windows Whistler build 2416 wasn't the first build to introduce the new theme called the sample test visual style thing. It was actually the Windows Whistler build 2410. For me, the sample test visual style theme looks nice for me, and I like it. So let's move on to the next build of Windows Whistler. Behold, sample visual style test theme and the watercolor theme. These things are not the same. But what if we mix it together? Well, there's only one way to find out. Whoa. Welcome to Microsoft Windows. Welcome to the Windows Whistler build 2429, which introduced new Luna theme, new setup, new OBE, new user interface, and the new Windows product activation, which that wasn't the first build to introduce for sure. But anyways, moving on to the next build. In case if you want to know what's the first version of Windows PE, well, here you go. This is the Windows Whistler PE build 2296, the first version of Windows PE that has a functionable task manager and CMD, notepad, and that's it. Personally, I will call this Windows 2000 pre-installation environment because of the way it looks. But anyways, moving on to the next build of Windows Whistler. Enrique! The next build of Windows Whistler that we're gonna be taking a look at. Oh, would you look at that? This OS is transmitting to be more like Windows XP like. But anyways, what's new with the Windows XP build 2469, you may ask? Well, the starting of Windows boot has been removed, and they changed the wallpaper again, this time with the Blaze wallpaper, which will be in the final. And they also introduced a new control panel, and unfortunately this build is still using Windows 2000 sounds, so that's sad. But probably because it wasn't, but probably because the sounds weren't implemented yet. But anyways, the final Windows XP build that we're going to discuss is the build 2481, which introduced new Windows XP sounds, and also one strange Windows XP sound that plays when you hover to the start button or pressing the start button thing. Take a listen. Yeah, looks strange, isn't it? But anyways, conclusion time. Overall, I think the Windows Vista builds and Windows XP builds were kind of interesting because of the way the user interface changes over time. And after Windows XP has been released to the public, well, it was a disaster on the first day because of the instability bug and Windows ME moment there. And yes, Microsoft did save the launch of Windows XP by releasing Service Pack 1, which basically fixes the bugs and instability and Windows ME moments, and etc. But the question still remains, is Windows XP still usable today? Well, kinda. Because the developers and the modern softwares does not support the XP anymore. There are modern softwares, or a few modern softwares that still supports XP, like Supremio, which is a web browser for Windows XP to 11, and that includes 7 and 8.x. There's also one core API extension for Windows XP that lets you run modern softwares. Thank you guys so much for watching, and join me next time when I'm gonna take a look at the Galaxy Watch 8 Classic. So subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.